In this video, you will learn about setting up your on-premises Hyper-V infrastructure to protect the Hyper-V virtual machines by replicating them to the Azure cloud. Learning objectives of this tutorial are understanding the Azure Site Recovery and its role in the disaster recovery. Number 2, configure Azure Site Recovery for Hyper-V virtual machine replication. Number 3, monitoring the replication health and the performance. Number 4, perform the test failover. And at last, we will be testing and validating the disaster recovery plans and will trigger the test failovers to test and validate our replication and its health. Understand the Azure Site Recovery and its role in the disaster recovery. The Azure Site Recovery is a powerful tool that enables the seamless disaster recovery and business continuity for the on-prem Hyper-V virtual machines. It replicates the virtual machines to the Azure to do so. This helps ensure business continuity and minimal downtime in the event of a disaster. Now that we know that the Azure Site Recovery can help you to replicate your virtual machines from on-premises to the Azure cloud to protect them from any natural disasters or can be man-made disasters, and you can do the planned or unplanned failovers to tolerate such disasters. So at the end, it's a disaster recovery solution to ensure that you can fail over your workloads to the second location, which is Azure cloud in this case, and keep your workloads running. To do the configuration of the Azure Site Recovery for the Hyper-V virtual machines especially, the setup will require the Azure subscription where I'll be creating the resources, and in fact the resources include the Recovery Service Vault, the storage account, the network, and the virtual machines. Recovery Service Vault that we use, and it is created to host the configuration of the replication that we do. We create a Recovery Service Vault in the Azure subscription to manage the entire process. On-premises preparation, we need to install the ASR provider, or you can say the agent, on the Hyper-V servers and the Recovery Services agent on the Hyper-V hosts. Replication configuration, in that we choose the virtual machines that we want to replicate to Azure. Configure the settings for the replication, like replication frequency, be it 5 minutes, 30 seconds, how frequently you want to start replication. Recovery point objectives, as per the RPO requirement, you can set them up, and the network settings and the mapping of network. Initial replication, we start the initial replication, which can be done over the network online. That is during the office hours, or you can plan it at a scheduled time as well. Then continuous replication, after the initial replication is done or the changes done in the virtual machines continuously replicate to the Azure in real time. Azure Site Recovery ensures the data consistency and the minimal data loss. When it comes to the failover to the Azure, in case of any disaster, you can initiate it in two different ways. Number 1, it is planned failover. If you have time and you can manage to shut down your on-premises servers, the virtual machines, and you initiate the failover in a planned manner, so you avoid the possibilities of the data loss, any data loss. Whereas if the on-premises infrastructure or the site becomes inaccessible, you can trigger the unplanned failover to fail over your workloads to the Azure cloud. Without any further ado, let's look into the demonstration of replicating the Hyper-V virtual machines to the Azure cloud. To start the replication to the Azure, the very first thing that I'm going to do here is to create the Recovery Service Vault in my Azure subscription. As I mentioned earlier, that the Recovery Service Vault is used to start the process of the replication, and here I choose the subscription, create a resource group where I want to keep it. This resource group is a logical container that contains this vault. will provide a name to this vault and a region where I want to deploy it. This recovery service vault will hold the configuration of the replication settings that I'll be doing for my virtual machines, be it Azure virtual machines or VMware or Hyper-V virtual machines that I want to protect. The backup storage redundancy can be geo-redundant or locally redundant. For my demonstration purpose, I'm good with locally redundant. I can go with Microsoft managed keys, or I can bring my own keys to encrypt that data that is at rest in the Azure cloud. The vault properties are there for enabling the immutability. For the selected region, I cannot do that, so I avoid this. Then I can decide on the connectivity method, that whether it will be over the public endpoint or it will be a private endpoint. Then I can provide a tag and its value for this resource. Then finally, I click review and create to create this vault. And this initiates the deployment of the recovery service vault. Once the vault is created, our next step will be to setting up the infrastructure, the on-premises infrastructure. Well, here you see that we have enable site recovery, the option. So with the recovery service vault, we can do the backup and site recovery. Here we have a step-by-step that we can follow, and I'm going with getting started, where I need to define the workload that I want to protect using it, be it Azure virtual machines or VMware or Hyper-V to Azure. In my case here, it is the Azure Hyper-V virtual machines that I want to move to Azure or replicate to Azure. Here is the deployment planning that I can do with the deployment planner tool. And this deployment planner tool is actually used to check the bandwidth, storage requirements that we need. And capacity planning we can do with the help of this tool. I'm ignoring that. And then I decide that I'm using Hyper-V but without SCVMM. So the configuration steps will vary. It's asking me for the Hyper-V site. I'll provide a friendly name for this depending on my on-premises site. For an instance, I'm staying in Bangalore and here I have my site in the local data center. In this Hyper-V site, I will be registering the Hyper-V servers that I want to configure to protect the virtual machines on it. There we go. This is created. Now it says that there is no server found in this site because it's newly created site. Now there are steps that how to add the Hyper-V hosts into this site. Here I have the ASR provider agent that I can download. So I copy this link address and will put it on my Hyper-V server. So this server is my Hyper-V server. As you see, the Hyper-V service is installed, and this is the Hyper-V manager, the management tool that we use to manage the virtual machines. I have one virtual machine here, which is app server 1, and I just created and started this machine. And here this machine is actually a Hyper-V virtual machine, which will be having the Windows operating system. As of now, I have just attached the VHD, and I need to change the boot order of this to start from that VHD. We'll do that later. Let's install the ASR provider on this Hyper-V server so that I can protect this virtual machine. Here I put that URL to download that ASR provider. As you see, Azure Site Recovery provider, and I initiate the installation of ASR provider on this Hyper-V server. During the deployment of this ASR provider, there will be few configuration parameters like the updates for this tool you need or not. So in my testing environment, I'm turning it off, and then I install it on the default location that it comes up with, or I can change this location. Next thing that I need to do is that I need to register this ASR provider with the recovery service vault, for which I will download the vault credential file. Here I initiated the deployment of this vault credential file, and I'm going to take it to that Hyper-V server. So for that, I am going to open this XML into an editor, text editor, and therefrom I'll bring the content of this file to the Hyper-V host. I copy this all I move to that Hyper-V server and will create a file. So here you see when you say register, you will be asked for a file. And I have downloaded that file already, and I actually have the raw content of that. So I'm going to put it into a notepad. This is the XML file that is having this key, this data. Okay, you can see the tags over here that are literally visible. Well, I put it any friendly name for this file and store it as .xml, and there we go, and click save. Bangalore site, open, yes, next, and I connect directly. So I have the option to decide that whether my server is behind proxy, so I can do the proxy configuration, or because my machine is directly connected to the internet, so I go without proxy. And this completes the deployment of this recovery service vault. It takes almost 15 minutes to it can take up to 15 minutes. Usually it comes within few minutes and it is discovered. So once this server is discovered, you see 15 minutes to 30 minutes it can take. So you need to wait for some time. I will be pausing the video and will resume once this agent is deployed and the server is discovered here. This host has been discovered, as you see. Now I will go with the next step. Here, if you see this host, this is the tool which I installed, the ASR provider agent. The server has been discovered, host. I will go with next to decide the target. It will require the storage account and the virtual network, which I don't have in my subscription. So I will launch a new tab. There I will create these two resources, the storage account that will be used for the replication, and the network in the target site, that or Azure site, that will be used to perform a failover. There we go. And I create these two resources. First of all, the virtual network. I've selected the virtual network from Microsoft as a publisher or provider for this resource, and this is DRVNet. I'm creating it into the West US region and will provide the address space and the subnet that I need. I'm going with the default one in this test environment, but you can pick it according to your requirement. And I can provide the subnet name here. I'm just customizing it as workload subnet, and save. This is my subnet where I want my workload to be failed over once I trigger the failover. Click create. This will deploy the virtual network. On the other side, I also start deployment of the storage account that it needs. So this is for storage account that I'll create. The storage account consolidates different services in it, be it the object-based storage called blob or file, table, or queue. Here I create the storage account with the name, a unique name of it, and into the West US region, the target region where I want to replicate my virtual machines, Hyper-V virtual machines. Then I pick the Azure Blob or the data lake storage solution. I'm going with LRS as the redundancy method for this. So it's locally redundant storage. Then I will be configuring the settings accordingly. I can go with the default settings as well over here. But yes, what I'm going to change here is one setting. Okay, this is about the endpoint, public endpoint or private endpoint that I can decide with. On the data protection, I'm going to turn it off for the soft delete. Okay, that is required actually in case you are using the ASR to replicate the virtual machines, and you're using this as your storage account for it. So soft delete need to be disabled. Finally, I click on review and create this storage account. This takes few seconds further once the storage account is ready. So I have both of the resources, the storage account and the VNet, that I can use to continue with the configuration of the replication. I go back to my recovery service vault, the service that we used to set up the on-prem infrastructure. In the vault, I will go to the manage. I show you the site recovery infrastructure, the site that I have. So these are the options. In my case, it is Hyper-V site. So it is Hyper-V site. I can see the Bangalore site. Okay, Hyper-V host 1 has been discovered. You can see the host or its details. So the host is connected, and this is the version of this agent and all details of it. I will further continue with the replication. So I will start with this getting started, and this takes me to the site recovery. I just wanted to show you that you can go directly from there as well. I go back to the same stage that we left earlier while configuring the source and the target. So source is this host that is detected. Then in the target, I will choose the subscription where I want to replicate the machines, ARM model or the ASM model, the classic model. For current or future deployments, we use ARM. So I'm going with resource manager deployment model. Then we have replication policy to create, which will have the settings to initiate the replication, how frequently it will be done, or the RPOs, the recovery point objectives. So I will define this, I will provide this policy a name. Suppose this is my Bangalore on-prem site. Hyper-V is the source, and policy 1 I'm creating. I can have multiple policies, and I can associate them during the configuration of the protection of the virtual machines, that which policy I want to apply. So I have two options, 5 minutes and 30 seconds. 15 minutes is no longer available. Earlier we had that option, and it is also telling you that if you go with the frequency greater than 30 seconds, then you intend to replicate to premium storage account, then you cannot go with this more than 30 seconds, greater than 30 seconds, right? If you intend to do that. Creating the replication policy. This takes few minutes to create the replication policy. Once it is done, then we can complete this deployment, and then we can protect the machines. Well, this replication policy is created, is now getting associated on this Bangalore site, my Hyper-V site. I paused and resumed the video, and now I go back to this getting started to do this again, and this time I will enable the replication on my virtual machines. Well, this is Bangalore site. I select the source, the target is this, and manage disk I'll be using the DR virtual network that I created. This is the virtual machine that has been detected by the ASR provider. Now I'll be replicating it. So the operating system type I need to choose, which is required, Windows or Linux. Then the operating system, it has detected that it's this 2019 G2, and disk, that is 1. So based on the metadata that has been sent by the ASR provider, it has detected a few of the things. That rest you are going to configure. Standard HDD, this is the storage account that you're going to use. I'm going to with standard HDD because it's my test or training environment, so I'm good with that, but you can go with premium SSD as well. This is the policy that has been applied, but yes, you have the drop down option to change it. So default it is taking it from the site that was selected, and then I will enable the replication. Enabling the replication will take some time, and it will initiate the replication for this machine, that you can check under the protected items that what items have been protected. So if you see this site recovery infrastructure, Hyper-V site, there is one site here. This is the host we have seen, and we have one replication policy P1 configured, Bangalore site P1. Okay, this is in use, and I can go back to this, and I can go to the protected items and replicated items here. In the replicated items, I will see that server 1, and it is healthy, enabling protection. I will pause the video once again, and for this to complete, okay, you need to configure virtual machines resource group before doing a failover. That's fine. I'll do that when I'll be doing the failover, or will plan for the failover. Well, this is the machine enabling protection, that I can see the status of it, and the replication health is shown as healthy. As I mentioned that I will pause the video and resume it. So now I can see that the machine has been protected. The initial replication was done immediately. Okay. And this is the healthy state and the virtual machine is protected. I have never performed the test failover, which is required. Actually, you should do those test drills over the period of time to validate that whether your application is good or not. You should not wait only for the emergencies or the situations when you have to do the failover. So we do the test failover for the test drill. My machine has been protected. Now to do a test failover, I'm creating a dedicated virtual network because the test failover need to be done in a dedicated network or isolated network from your production, because in this case actually the workload is active in the source side and the destination side as well. So it's active case, and we do not want the duplicacy or the conflicts. So that is why the test failover need to be done in a dedicated network and isolated network from the production. And once we are done with the test failover, then we clean up all the resources. So that is the reason that I'm creating this virtual network. Well, this virtual network has been created. Here we see this test failover option that I can use to do a test failover. And I will choose from the site I want to replicate it to which location. So this is your test DR VNet site and starting the test failover. It will start the test failover. That will take few minutes. And once the test failover is done, so we will see that our workload is actively running in the Azure and in the on-premises at both of the sides. Here we go. Now it's no issues here and initiating test failover. That warning from last successful test failover has been removed because the first test failover has been initiated. You can refresh to see the state of it. Well, this is how we do the test failover, and then we have the option for planned failover and failover that we can do. So in planned failover, as I mentioned earlier, that we shut down the machines from the primary site or on-premises site. So it results into the zero data loss actually, whereas in the unplanned situation, unplanned failover, then we can initiate that failover as unplanned failover. If I take you to the virtual machines, so once the test failover is done, so you see that virtual machine is running in West US, the app server 1, and it's Windows machine. The machine has been started. If I take you to the lab environment and I show you that the virtual machine is running in on-premises as well, but because I did the test failover into a isolated VNet, so there is no possibility of the duplicate instances or the duplicate workload running. So there will not be any chance of the conflict. You can check the replication health from the on-premises Hyper-V server also. This replication health shows you that, okay, how many replication cycles have happened. 58 out of 58, 100% is done. This is the replication done. And finally, I will do a clean test failover to clean up these resources. Once I initiate the cleanup, so all the resources will be cleaned up from the target region. Target site was the Azure site.